What's going on, vinyl and cassette community? So 2013 is drawing to a close. Now, normally, I don't do things like best of lists and that kind of thing. I do enjoy watching other people's, but in this case, I was talking to someone else in the VC and thought it might be fun to do one or a couple or a handful of kind of a best of 2013 videos. But maybe stuff with kind of a spin on it. Not the best new releases of 2013. I'll rely on other people for that. And there's some really good ones floating around out there now. The first one that I thought would be appropriate to do, for all the cassette community videos I filmed in 2013, I thought it would be fun to show the 10 cassettes that I've listened to the most in 2013. It's kind of funny. Some of these I own on multiple formats. Cassette, vinyl, CD, some just on cassette, some otherwise. But for some reason, you know, one way or another, it just seems that in 2013, I always reached for the cassette copy of this album. It could be because I got a new Nakamichi cassette deck and they just sound fantastic there. I had switched out my SAE cassette deck and there was a video on that a ways back on my channel. Or because this is just the way I grew up listening to these albums when I was a teenager, you know, alone in your room. Whatever you listen to then, that's safe. That's what you go back to. Here nor there, these are the 10 cassettes that I pulled off the shelf and listened to most frequently in 2013. All of them are heavy metal. That should surprise no one. My entire cassette collection consists of 80s and 90s heavy metal. There is little variance in there whatsoever, so it is what it is. If that's not what you dig or not what you're into, by all means, head off now. First is an honorable mention, and it's Iron Maiden's Live After Death. This is one of those that I own on vinyl, I own it on CD, and I own it on cassette. And inexplicably, this year, I just always reached for the cassette copy of this album. Nothing else needs to be said of it. It's fantastic. And before I say the same thing about all these, let me just say these are all fantastic albums in my opinion. I recommend everyone to everyone. That's the dumbest freaking thing I've said today. I recommend all of them to everyone. Go check them out. And that's one of the coolest things about lists, is when you're watching somebody that you respect their musical taste and you tend to vibe with them and like the same things, when they're saying this is one of the best things that they dug, damn sure I go right out and check it out too, because hey, you know, it's all based on reference and their opinion, and you value and trust their opinion and their judgment. So check them all out. Ozzy's Speak of the Devil. This is one that I've been listening to on cassette, man, since I was 12 years old, and that's where it seems right. I have it on vinyl as well, but this is Ozzy performing all Black Sabbath songs right around what was, for me, Ozzy's best period ever. Diary of a Madman, Blizzard of Oz, and Speak of the Devil. And Speak of the Devil is absolutely brilliant. This one's a bit newer, from 1999. This is Merciful Fate's 9th album, appropriately titled 9. Not a concept album like many of Merciful Fate and King Diamond's releases, so it's not something I have to try to dig in and get the storyline. But it's a bit different from Merciful Fate. It's not thrash heavy fast, and I love that early stuff. This is more melodic, but it's still every bit powerful enough to completely rip your face off. It's a fantastic album. Speaking of power metal, here's Halloween's Better Than Raw. This is also from the late 90s, and besides having absolutely brilliant cover art, it is a phenomenal Halloween album. After a couple of missteps following the Keeper of the Seven Keys series, they came back with a huge bang with this album. It's phenomenal and definitely worth checking out. Here's Takedo, whatever. Danny Vaughan from Wasted has some of the most killer pipes in hair metal, in heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. But this album, their contemporaries were like Firehouse and stuff like that, and that's a great band, but Takedo was just so much more. With Danny having come from Wasted, this is tremendously difficult to find on vinyl. One day my prince will come, and this is an amazing album. Full-on AOR greatness. The next couple, again, these have just been mainstays in my jacket and my Walkman since the early 90s. Here's Danzig's second album, Lucifuge. If there ever were a second coming of Jim Morrison and just brilliant blues rock with a hard edge, it was Glenn Danzig. And Danzig's second album, off the Misfits, off Sam Hain, and then fully just coming into his own, it's Lucifuge. This is an album that I know note for note and can never get enough of. Same with Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction. Again, one of those albums that, since the day it came out and I bought it on cassette in high school, it's just been a mainstay. And there, for me, is just nothing more fun than grabbing this off the shelf dropping the cassette in and letting it roll. Every song is an absolute classic. Same with King Diamond's The Eye. Again, this one takes me all the way back to 9th grade, my freshman year in high school. It's just a brilliant set of songs. I bought this on CD when it first came out. I don't have this one on vinyl, being from 1990, I believe it is. Very tricky to find, but a fantastic King Diamond album. The next few are probably not as well known. Here's Artillery's By Inheritance. Artillery, you know, it's funny, when I listen to this, I get Master of Puppets, I get And Justice for All, I get Ride the Lightning. I get a lot of Metallica influence, but by all means, they are much, much heavier than Metallica ever was. Especially these days when they're just pretty well washed up. But this is an album that, it was produced by Fleming Rasmussen, who produced a couple of the early Metallica albums. I know Ride the Lightning and maybe Master of Puppets, I can't remember. But this is definitely one worth checking out. You know, if you can imagine Metallica just a little bit heavier, more crunching, more in your face, that would be Artillery, and it's great. Here's Arch, and this is another return to Churchill. This is on Metal Blade, and I believe it's from 1989. And Arch is more, I would say, akin to something like Early Fate's Warning or Good Queensryche, Early Queensryche. And this is, again, just another excellent album. It's been getting played a lot. And this one kind of made a return for me this year. I hadn't really listened to much Sepultura in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and you know, this year it may have just been from seeing it in the VC so much, but Sepultura's Arise, which was my gateway to them when it came out, maybe 9th or 10th grade, again, same thing. And from there I had to have everything they owned. I followed them up through Roots when Max then left the band, and then I just dropped them like third period French, and it took years to get back into them. Every cut on this cassette is killer. Fantastic album. And those are the 10, well, 11 if you're counting, most played cassettes by me in 2013. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have one. Love discussing this stuff with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Check out some of those albums. I'm sure full versions are available here on YouTube. Let's ring in the new year, y'all. Later.